Hello, and thanks very much for joining me on this Book Selling University course on marketing on a budget. It's Book Selling University course 178. So I am Brian Judd. I'm the instructor of today's course, and I've got a lot of experience in marketing on the corporate side, on the publishing side, as an author, as a consultant, but also as a book publisher, and I've started a couple businesses, and so I understand what it's like to have to market on a budget. And I've done that. As I first came out with my books 20 so years ago, I self-published those and worked on a budget to make sure that they were profitable very, very quickly. So I've written a lot of articles about how to do that, written books on how to do that. So I'll share some of that information with you today. So what to expect from this webinar, this course? This is the way most authors and publishers look at their budget, how they're spending their money. They spend and spend and spend, and they don't get the results from it because, well, maybe they're not spending on the right things, or on the right times, or the right ways, and based on the right plan, or whatever. But there are a lot of reasons for that, and we'll look at some of those in this course so you can find out. But we'll look at some creative marketing ideas, ways to get a greater return on your promotional expenditure, your rope, and doing some different things that are not necessarily wacko or creative, but they are some inexpensive ways to optimize sales and to get the biggest bang for your buck. And so we'll look at how to do that today. So what's the baker's dozen of successful marketing ideas? And these are the 13 things I've put together, but you really need a personal understanding. What are you good at? What do you like doing? What don't you like doing? A lot of people just want to write and they don't want to get involved with the marketing of the book. And if that's the case, there are some things that you have to do, or you can farm them out and get other people to do them for you. So there are ways around any obstacle that you might find, and hopefully we'll show you some of those paths around the obstacles today. But just know what you're good at, and what you're not good at, just either farm it out or get it done. The product development, instead of using the term book, we'll be using the term product, because it could be an audio book, it could be a booklet. If you're communicating your content to a corporation, for example, they may want it in a seminar or in a workshop for their employees, or the association may want to hire you as a spokesperson, as a doing personal presentation. So you're delivering your content not as a book, but as a spokesperson, or as in a seminar or a webinar. So the concept of product supersedes that of a book, but just think about it could be an audio book, an ebook, a printed book, or it could be a variety of things. We'll look at those. People skills are really important, because not all selling is done, or people don't like the word selling, but it's the marketing, the communicating, the getting your book sold. It's not all done via social media. It's done by a lot of personal work. You're contacting, you're doing store events, or networking, or you're communicating with your distributor. You're doing your personal presentations. These require some people skills, and it's just important to have those, or to again learn how to develop those. Persistence is certainly one of the biggest. This should have been at first, probably, but you have to be able to give it the process time to work. It occurs over a long term. And persuasion is important, because you're not necessarily selling. It's not a hard sell where you're push. It's persuading and showing people how they will benefit from using your content. And the more that you can persuade them to do that, then you create that word of mouth, so they're out there telling other people about it too. Positioning is creating that image of your content in people's minds. If you are talking to a retailer, that your content will help them be more profitable, to help them build store traffic. Your promotion will build more store traffic. So, but with a librarian, they don't care about that. They want to help their patrons. So you're creating that image of your content and your ability in different ways to different buying segments. Placement is certainly where you have your books available. So that's why it's important to know the people in your target reader, your target market, that you know where they shop. If they're business people, maybe they're in airport stores. If they're young parents, maybe they're in supermarkets or in in toy stores or in children's furniture stores, wherever that may be. That's where you need to have your books for sale. So the packaging is the cover design. It has to be attractive. It has to be strategic. We have courses at Book Selling University on well, all these topics actually. So we have that information about the strategy of cover design, and promotion is a big part of book marketing. It's something that if you can have the best book in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you won't sell too many. So the idea of promotion is getting the information out to the right people. Planning, obviously, you need to have the plan in place. You need to decide what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. But it's not written in stone. The plan is something, it evolves. I say to think of the word plan as a verb and not a noun, because you don't have to create a 2-inch thick document, but you have something that will help direct you and help you move ahead. Certainly the pricing is important. That's going to determine your profits. And it's not just I'll show you some examples about how to do that, but it's really important to particularly on a low budget, then you need to have your price properly set. And so people will pay for that. And the potential is really important. That's something that you always have potential. That's something that you have to keep your mind on that. You don't want to give up. You want to allow the process to work and to have that time for that to occur. But you're always looking at the potential. What else can I do? How else can I do this? Where else can I do this? And that's, I think, will help you get ahead. And these don't cost anything. Well, there are inexpensive and free promotional techniques too. So we'll look at all these and how you can use these for your marketing on a low budget. So you look for promotional opportunities that nobody else sees. The more that you can be an individual, if you're away from the competition, then you can be more productive, more economically. If you're trying to compete against everybody on a radio show or television show or on Facebook or on Twitter, well, sometimes you get lost. But if you can go where other people aren't, and that's where you can really exceed and succeed. When people look at book marketing, they normally just think about bookstores, and they look at that as you might look at it, and they don't look at some of the other opportunities. So if you look at this, most people say, well, I'll say, what do you see there? They'll say a tree. But if you look at some of these other areas, there are faces here. There are actually 10 faces in that tree. And people don't see those very quickly. They really have to look at them. But the more that you can identify what is there, what you see and nobody else sees, then you're much more likely to take advantage of those and take advantage economically. There's a lot of these things that you can do for free. That you're building your platform is certainly something that it takes time, but it certainly is not a big expense. You can do that on TV and radio shows. You can do it through social media, social networking, and stimulating that word of mouth advertising. If you can get, or communication, I should say, you can get other people to talk about your book, about how good it is, and recommend it to other people, then you're much more likely to, or they're much more likely to communicate that than if you tell people how great your book is. It's not always as believable as if someone else says how great your book is. Getting on the air, we have a Book Selling University course just on how to do that. And so, well, actually how to do all these things. We have courses on getting on TV and radio shows, performing on TV and radio shows, networking for introverts, networking in general, personal networking, and advertising. We'll look at, even today in this course, we'll be looking at advertising at no charge, or free advertising. Networking, cause marketing, we'll talk about that with associations, digital marketing strategy. You know, it's not just posting online, but using the different media, the different networking outlets for their best purpose and being most effective on those. Promoting online is a great way to economically market yourself and market your content. Let's talk about using your book as a fundraiser, and where you're paid for that, and the timing of it, when to time, because that can be a really important part of your message. If you're getting the message out to the right people at the wrong time, it's not effective for you either. So these are just some the the general things you can do, and we'll be looking at each or most of these very, very soon. So start off by defining your target readers. This is really an important thing that I talk to many authors about that. I'll say, who's your target reader? And they'll say, everybody. Well, it's hard to market economically to everybody. But if you can define who your target readers are, then you're much more likely to be able to reach them economically. So think about who will buy your books. And people say, well, women 25 to 50. Well, you can't, let's be more specific, because if you think of women 25, they may be just starting their family. So they're looking more at perhaps buying at Walmart or buying at dollar stores or at supermarkets, where the 50-year-old woman is more established in a career and probably has more discretionary disposable income. And maybe they're on cruise ships or traveling. So you want to be in airport stores. You want to be able to reach them through networking groups. Or so the more specifically you can define your readers, you still may be marketing your book to women, but you have it in different places and you market to them for different reasons. Why will they buy? They want, if your book is on wealth, well, they want to make more money, or do they want to save more money? They want to invest it. How do they invest it? Are they looking for retirement, or they want to invest it for a college education? So the more that you can understand why they buy, then the more likely you are to communicate that message. And again, these things are designed to make your communication more effective. So you're not spending a lot of money doing it, but you're doing the right things with the right message to the right people at the right time. Even when will they buy? If you're thinking about that, maybe they're buying in the fourth quarter holiday period, or maybe the Mother's Day, Father's Day, May, June, July area, where the graduations. I wrote a series of books on how to get a job. And that was a lucrative time for me when the college students are graduating, and I was selling the books to them and working with the colleges in that April, May period just before graduation. So if you think about, you're maybe looking at your sales in January and say, boy, the sales are really down. But the impact, if you know that your book is a gift book in the fourth quarter, then you can strategically level this out so your revenue is throughout the year. Where do they buy? Do they buy I was selling my job search books. I was trying to get into bookstores. Well, people who are unemployed aren't going to go to bookstores when they can go to libraries and get the same book for free. So I spent more of my time contacting libraries than bookstores. And I use bookstores for reaching other markets, certainly. But if you know where they buy, if it's that the business traveler, then you're in the airport stores, or you're in Staples or office product stores. How many people are there? How big is your market? If you say, well, I hear this a lot, I have no competition. Well, you do have a lot of competition, no matter what the bottom point on this slide. You have to know, if you may have no competition for your content, but then you might want to wonder if nobody else has a book on your content, maybe it's not a big enough market for it. But you may be competing and selling to corporations. Maybe you're competing against coffee mugs or umbrellas, or if you're in bookstores, you're competing for shelf space. You're competing for media time. So there's always competition. Maybe perhaps not for your identical content or the way that you've manipulated the content so it is different, which is good. If you have that unique twist on something, then it's good to have that. Communicate that how your book is different. If you have how to get wealth or how to be happy or how to have good relationships, talk about how your content is different from everybody else's, and that's giving them more reasons why they will buy. But just think about defining your readers so you have that information for them, about them, I should say. And then organize them in groups. Here's what Comcast does, organizing their prospective buyers in these groups. And you can see how the marketing to each would be different. That you have the affluent families that probably be different than the young and mobiles who are using phones differently, certainly, suburban versus urban, or blue-collar, Hispanic, baby boomers. These are different groups. So you want to be able to organize your buyers similarly. Here's an example for children's books. You have the content, the books available in a variety of different places. The important thing is here, they buy for different reasons. PTAs are perhaps buying for a fundraiser. Homeschooling is maybe buying your books as a textbook or as a supplemental reading for the kids. Work-at-home parents, if they're a single mom, single dads, and maybe they're bringing up their kids at home, they have different reasons for purchasing. So these are all a variety of different examples of how you can organize your different buyers and groups. And then when you communicate to them, then you're using their reasons for buying. Or we'll be talking later about having separate landing pages for these. You might have one landing page for libraries, one landing page for schools, one landing page for media or daycare center. So the important thing is to plan how you market them. You have these in groups, and then plan how you reach them. Here are the different parts of a plan that I promote this regularly. I've written books on this, but planning, you have that direction, that's your mission statement and your vision statement. Where do you want to go? Then the strategy is, is what you're going to do, the product, the place, price, promotion, which I'll show you momentarily. And then the action is how you're going to do it. So it goes where you're going, what you're going to do to get there, and how you're going to actually do that. So look at the product, and the rest of this class is basically set up this way. So it's the product. Could be the different form, which I mentioned earlier. It could be the content that you have. The form is a variable. It doesn't have to be a printed book or an ebook. It could be communicated in a variety of ways. And the place being where it is, whether it's in a bookstore, a non-bookstore retailer like a gift shop, or an airport store, or non-retail. It could be a corporation or a school or the military or associations. And certainly you can sell on the internet. See, that's where you think about that. That's the trunk of the tree that people just look at Amazon and Barnes and Noble, but see how many different places that you can see where others are not necessarily selling their books. So you're unique in that area. And so you're creating value. And we'll be talking about all these individually, but I wanted to put them in context here so you can see how these the promotion fits in with the pricing and where you're going to communicate that. So these are all important things to get across to people and how you can make that happen. So let's get into that. But I've talked about book marketing being as simple as pie, where you plan, then you implement your plan, then you evaluate it. So every plan is not, will certainly change over time, being a verb that you're planning versus creating a plan. But you implement the plan and then evaluate it, establish checkpoints of what's going to happen. So at point 1 and point 2, as your sales start heading down, well, maybe you need to come up with product extensions or brand extensions or author extensions, and I'll describe each of those later in this class. So these are just different points at which you can evaluate your relative success. Are you going on that upward path, or are you having, is it the arrow heading down? So what can you do differently? Or if something's working, how can you do more of it? So these are ways in which that pie technique, that you have to set these checkpoints, if nothing else, at least semi-annually. That maybe mid-year, you do your plan early in the year, and then in June you're looking at it. Are you on track? And what changes do you need to make? So let's talk about how you promote your book. This is one thing that most people do. They get their book out, and now they're wondering, how do I promote it? Which is important, because you need to do that, obviously. So you have to be able to not just make a big hit. Some people say that I'll do the mega hit. I'll just get everybody to learn about my book very quickly. Well, that's good, but I think it's better to have a variety of different hits. So these you get more groups, you get more people seeing it. And you look at each one of those circles on the right, might actually be one of your target markets. So you're getting a hit regularly on these different segments. So don't just always think about the major event on Today's Show. Okay, well that's one example or one hit, but it doesn't mean people will see it. Doesn't mean people will remember it. They don't have that repetition, so that it keeps reminding them that they see the Today Show on Monday, then a week later they're thinking about, well, I've got to start saving for my kids' college. Well, then And they may see a newsletter or newspaper article about you, or a radio show, or a review, or read an article about you in the newspaper or magazine. So you're doing all these things on a regular basis, and that will also uh, create that ripple effect where you're getting more hits on more people more regularly. So it's not how much you spend, it's but how you spend it and where you spend it. And think about, some promotion has long-term effects, some has short-term effects. Some is for exposure and some is for sales. So if you create a chart like this, and I have an article on this topic, but the idea is that some communication is for short-term exposure. Like if you're doing a radio show or a TV show, people will say, well, I didn't sell any books on my radio show. Well, it's not designed as a sales medium unless it is a direct response type of a show. But if you're doing publicity, then you're getting exposure. You're doing that short-term exposure. With a long-term exposure, I think, is like social networking, where it takes a long time to build that platform up, that portion of your platform, so that it really creates results. And there are different ways of doing that, which I'll talk about later in this course. The short-term selling could be telephoning, or knocking on doors, or personal networking, or direct marketing, wherever you're doing that, doing seminars or personal presentations. You can sell at the back of the room. So those are short-term sales techniques. But the long-term sales techniques might be corporate buyers, where you call in a corporation, and it might take you 3 or 4 years to actually make the sale. But when you do make the sale, you sell 30 or 40,000 books. And we've had some of my clients have actually done that, where we had no sales for 3 years, and all of a sudden you get an order for 30,000 books. So just think about how you can do these things and keep that perspective. So you may be doing a lot of radio shows or TV shows, not selling books, but you're getting that exposure, and you're getting more people perhaps to talk about your book and actually to buy it. So it's very hard to pinpoint where a sale comes from. On the corporate side, obviously you can, but when you're selling books through bookstores, you just don't know what actually led to that sale. So you have to keep doing everything. And that's where you can spend a lot of money and then spin a lot of wheels. So the more that you can track information by doing direct marketing, or doing telephone selling, or doing the publicity that leads to that, you just know that you're doing that in different segments and reaching people for their reasons for buying. So this technique, if you just work on that, that's going to help a lot to make you more effective and efficient in your marketing programs. And use a variety of publicity tools also. Some people just do Facebook or just do Twitter, and they think that they're actually marketing. Well, it's not. You may be working on the long-term exposure, but not necessarily being effective. So do a lot of these things. Do press kits. Do a one sheet where have this ready to send. So if you talk to a producer on a radio show or a TV show, the producer is going to say, well, send me something. So you have something that you can send right away. If you have to wait 2 days while you create this document to send to them, then they've forgotten about why they asked you to send it. And do store events. We have a book selling university course just on making that happen, on doing the events. Create a newsletter, an e-zine. I do that for several different markets. I do that for authors associations. I do that for apps. I do one for my book marketing works. So I have different audiences for the different content of the e-zine. Read at schools, and I did a lot of presentations to colleges. And didn't necessarily sell a lot of books right there, but I did create I'll talk about how I contacted the parents of graduating students later. The idea is you can read at schools, read at libraries, and these are things that they don't cost anything. In some cases, you may even get paid for it. Getting book reviews, not just getting the reviews, but using them strategically too. So you let people know that your book was well reviewed. You don't just wait for them to go on Amazon to look at reviews, but you communicate to them how well your book has been reviewed. We talk about the timing and tying in with the national day. This is holidayinsights.com. I've talked about this in several of my courses, but you can come up with particular days. If you know that you're introducing your book in May, well, come here and look for these holidays, and the National Date Your Mate Month or Foster Care Month. So if you have a book on that, if you have a book on bicycling or barbecuing, then you may want to introduce it in May. Or at least your book may be out, but then you can do the promotion, contact the media, let them know that your book on photography would be a great radio show topic on National Photograph Month. So these are things that if you can go to this holidayinsights.com, I think you'll have some great ideas, or it will give you some great ideas about when, in fact, to promote your book. Certainly doing the social media, and social media is not just Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest. It's blogging and podcasting and your website and getting this information out. So those are all different devices of social media. We'll be looking at event sponsorship, how to get that done, writing letters to the editor. That gets your name around and also gives you some more credibility when you contact the buyers and say that you were in the Wall Street Journal, the letter to the editors or whatever. Then it just gives you a little more stature, a little more creativity, and credibility. So doing webinars, seminars, we talked about a lot of these things, having your email signature. Be surprised how many people don't have an email signature. And they'll say, give me a call. And I have to say, what's your phone number? What time zone are you in? Or they say, send me some information. We obviously reply to the email. But if I have to send something, send a book or a copy of our catalog, I need a physical address for it. So the more that you can use that email signature to sell for you, that's free. but a lot of people don't use that at all. Toll-free number. I have for my job search books. I have 800 job help. That's if I'm doing a morning drive time radio show, that's a lot more communicative than saying it's 800-562-4357. So people aren't going to remember that. They will remember 800 job help. Virtual tour, we have a book selling university course on that, as we do on awards and reviews and teaching a class, and getting on TV and radio shows is certainly something that you can do. If you go to this website of usnpl.com, it gives you this information on TV stations, on radio stations, on newspapers by state. So say you're in Pennsylvania. Well, then here are the newspapers in Pennsylvania by city. So you can contact those. They're doing the TV stations so by state also. So say you're in Minnesota, then it has the TV stations by city. So you can go directly to those. So this usnpl.com is good for radio, TV, newspapers also. So these are ways in which you can get on to, they're free. Again, it's a great way to get free exposure. And again, it's exposure, and the more you do it, the more it becomes long-term exposure. But it's certainly something you can do in the short term too. And so being a guest on TV and radio shows, there's Book Selling 141, Book Selling You 141 about how to do that. But this is a good for radio. It's radio-locator.com. Just put in a zip code here of saying here's there, and then just go there, and that's Connecticut. So it lists the radio shows in Connecticut, or you want to do Chicago, then it lists the radio shows in Chicago or near Chicago. So it's a radio-locator.com up here, and that can be a real good site for you to get a lot of these names of people. Help a reporter out. This is where the media comes to you. They submit this, you're a source of information, and what you do, you register this, it's free, and then the producers will contact you. They check your inbox here, and then you send the information, you send the sales, the pitch, the perfect pitch to them that based upon their request for information. So and there's a different way to have them media come to you is this pitchrate.com. Here, it's the same thing that the journalists will contact you, and they will have the same request for information. And if your content addresses that request, then contact them and send them the information that you already have prepared. Start your own cable TV show. It may sound odd, but that's what I did. And I did it for 13 years. It's 650 shows. And it's actually the longest continuously running television show in Connecticut cable television. And here's me on the left and Eric Campman on the right. He's the president of Midpoint Books, but he was on my show. And it was actually, we both showed up with our red tie and blue blazers, so I took mine off so the guest would be more professional or look more professional. But it was something that I did that for many years, and it was a fun thing. I met a lot of great people that way, and gave a lot of people a good start on the air. So write a persuasive press release, so something that they'll keep it straightforward and simple. KISS principle. That the more that you don't want to have keep it to one page. That's why they call it a one sheet. So it's not something that has to have your whole life history, or your table of contents and everything on it. That doesn't matter at this point, because in an important point in book marketing, when you're selling your book and you're marketing your book, the least important thing is your book. People talk about the size of the book, number of pages. It's not important. The content, and what does the content do for the buyer? That's what people want to find out about. So you use that AIDA. A is attention, interest, desire, and action. The attention is the headline. So that's different for a retailer than it would be for a librarian, than it would be for the media. They want your content for different reasons. Interest is the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, why. Desire may be a couple more dot points, adding additional, maybe some reviews or testimonials. And the action step is that I will contact you, or whatever the action you're requesting, have them contact you, or you contact them. So keep it to one page, have it double spaced, and get to the point quickly. Don't have a lot of warm up, but just have the information. They'll saying, tell me quick and tell me true, or else, my friend, the heck with you. So that's a little technique. Building your platform certainly is important to do, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but it's something that you're branding yourself. You're creating that positioning statement so people remember who you are. So you get that exposure in your niche, not always just online, but we're contacting people in person, or you're doing your marketing. A TV show for a business traveler will be a different TV show than for someone who's a parent, who's bringing up their kids or planning on having kids, whatever that may be. So these are all things that you can do. We'll be talking about these as we go through this event. We already talked about TV show, the expert pull. We'll be looking at doing personal presentations, where you never know who's going to be in your audience. You can maybe, I've gotten a lot of speaking events just from people in the audience of different presentations that I have done. So it's a great way to get people to come to you. The Harrow, Help a Reporter Out, is an example of that also. And building the word of mouth communication, I was talking about it a few times. The more that you can get other people talking about your book, you're much more likely to communicate that to their reference groups and to their people who look up to them, and not people who are just expecting the author to say good things about his or her book. So how do you stimulate that word of mouth communication? Maybe give books away, and give books away strategically. I'm not saying just print up 1,000 books and give them out. But I'm saying that you can give, if you're a consultant, you can give books to a potential client and make a lot more money when they hire you as a consultant. So you give books away strategically. Radio giveaways. I did that for my Job Search 101 was the title of my book, and I went to CBS 101. Actually at the time was the highest rated New York morning drive time radio show, New York City. And I gave them 10 books to give away. And they would say, the 10th caller gets Job Search 101 on CBS 101. And I asked if I could be on the show. I was on the highest rated morning drive time show in New York City to talk about my books. Getting endorsements and even getting celebrities. And we have this is part of the course on Bookselling University course on getting on the air, but this is realclassics.com, REEL classics.com, and it gives you celebrity mailing addresses. You go through here, and I checked Jay, there's no Judd in there, but just you can get the mailing addresses. It's not really up to date, but it may be able to help you. So if you're looking to find celebrities, that's a great way to do it. Discussion groups on Facebook, on LinkedIn, you can go to these, and I'm in a lot of these groups, and I participate regularly on those. Setting the world's record, maybe go to Guinness's Book of Records and find out is there a record for your topic or not. One of my clients had a book about golf, and this business business to business golf. And so there was a Guinness's record about stacking golf balls one on top of the other, and he never did set that record, but he certainly got some publicity about doing it. There was a story in the Wall Street Journal recently about someone set up a kiosk or a table in the subways in New York City and sold like 1,000 books a week. It was in poetry, actually, sold poetry books. People just came by and saw and bought the books. Store events. We have a whole book selling university course on how to do that, and then the creative promotion, coming up with a talk. I mentioned before that I was trying to sell more of my job search books to college students who didn't want to spend the money to do that. So I found the list of the parents of graduating college students and sent them a direct mail package and sold tens of thousands of books to them because they had the desire, they had the income, and they wanted to get the kids a job and get them out of the house. So it worked. So think of advertising. People say, I'm not going to do advertising because it's too expensive. Well, if you use it strategically, then maybe not. If you go to an association and go to the newsletter editor, and that person's job is to create a monthly newsletter with new content. So allow them to excerpt from your book and barter that for a free ad. We do that for our clients. If they allow the newsletter editor excerpt X hundred words per issue, then month 1 they get an excerpt, month 2 an ad, month 3 an article, month 4 a review of the book. So there's always that consistency, that repetition. So it's methodical. It's something that there's a lot of those little different drops in the water instead of that one big one, that you're doing the promotion that is amplifies each other, that you're doing your radio work or newspaper work to promote your personal presentations or your store events. So it's something that's appealing to each of those segments. So the people that are looking to, retailers want to build store traffic and have better inventory turns and more profits. The media want to have a good show for their audience. The librarians want to have help their patrons. The teachers want to help their students. So the more that you can research this and find out what their buying motives are, then you can target your advertising to them. And so it's more economical, even if you have to pay for it. If you have the right message to the right individuals for their buying motives, it can be very productive. It's something that you just consider that. It can be free, but it can also be strategically profitable. Personal selling, obviously, not obviously, but on corporate buyers, and that's something that we do a whole course and just on that, several courses on that, on how to sell to them, how to make the appointments. But the retail store events and don't just think of bookstore signings. Think about, first of all, retail stores, a wide variety of stores, and it could be airport stores or supermarkets. You can do an event there. I would talk about how to get a job. Instead of talking about come and buy my book, I would say come and learn how to get a job. And then, by the way, during the event, during my presentation, I would talk about my book. And so I sold a lot of books that way. Here's a website you might choose to go to. It's 10times.com, but it lists these trade shows. Let me get up here. Trade shows and conferences by industry, by country. So if you have a book on fashion or beauty, then you go here and you can sort it by country. Get the USA. So just get or if you're traveling somewhere, traveling internationally, then you can go to that country. But this lists all the upcoming events and conferences and trade shows, and you don't have to go have a booth at a trade show. You can just go there to a lot of these places and walk around. But those are examples of where to find trade shows and conferences and personal presentations. These are book festivals. You can go to local craft shows and sell books. Maybe only sell 10 or 20 at a time. But you can, if you do that every week and you sell 20 books a week, then that adds up. But just make sure you're not spending 2 days to do that. It could be you want to use your time economically also. So you can make these personal presentations at libraries. Do a library tour, and we'll talk about that later also. But you can go to these places, go on cruise ships and get paid for it. They may pay all your expenses for a week's cruise, in which I have a client that actually did that and does that on a regular basis. But you can go to these different places. So you're doing your personal presentations. If you have a book on health, maybe go to your local gym and do a seminar there, or just do an event. So the more that you can, don't just think of personal presentations to 1,000 people in a group, which it could be if you're a professional speaker. Then you sell the books at the back of the room after your presentation. So you can do a lot of sales that way. These can be very lucrative. You may get paid for them, particularly at corporations and associations. They pay you for it. They may you sell your book, and it can be a lucrative way, a very inexpensive way to generate a lot of sales. Networking, again, not just social media, but doing the ways to expand your network, expand the information, your people that you're contacting, and do this. It's something that needs to be strategic, smart, smart technique of advertising. Be smart about your networking. Just be strategic and methodical, and keep the records. So when you contact someone, you talk to them. Then before you call them 6 months later, perhaps you're talking to someone and the person says, "Well, I got to leave now. I've got my son's 10th birthday, or my daughter's going to the national volleyball playoffs." So the next time, 6 months from now, you say, "How did your daughter do in the playoffs?" People will be very surprised that you remembered that. So if you keep records, have that information, so you're prepared to contact them. And do some niche networking. Here, say maybe you have a children's book. So you go to this website, and it'll be up here momentarily, this jacketflap.com. So say you have a children's book. Well, here's how to network with people in the children's book industry. Here are 700 blogs that are related to children's books. So here's the from book publisher. If you're looking for book publishers of children's books, see, the more that you can focus your networking into a specific category, the more profitable, more lucrative, the more successful you can become in that topic. So don't just think about social networking. Think about pressing the flesh, getting that information. Contacting associations, certainly a great way to get information to a targeted organization. You get them to sell your books on their website. Large associations have bookstores there, and become a spokesperson. The membership share, that person's objective is to increase membership. So if they can use your book as a premium, which would be if someone joins the association, renews their membership, they get a free copy of your book as a thank you. We talked about the newsletter content. We talk about cause marketing, where you align with the cause of the association, whether it's for animal cruelty or whether it's for heart disease. If your book is about that, well, align with them and maybe do some cooperative marketing. And again, we have courses on Bookselling University on all these topics. I think that you'll find the more detail on this. This is more the overview, but you can use your book as a fundraising item, where for charities, for seminars, for prizes. But see, here's some examples. My Job Search 101, I went through the American Marketing Association chapters on different colleges, and they bought a case of my books, a half price, non-returnable, and they used it as a fundraiser. They just, for fraternities or for the American Marketing Association chapter, that they were learning how to do fundraising, and they learned it by actually making money by selling my book. So the more that you can address groups, maybe a corporate golf outing, or you're having a wine and cheese tasting, if your book is about pairing wine and cheese, or about wine, or about cheese. So what I'm just trying to do here is give you some ideas about how to be more strategic, targeted on your marketing, and that is going to help you be much more economical and successful. So speak at these association conferences, where you can sell the books at the back of the room, or sell the books before the room, or before your presentation. Get the association to buy a book for everybody who's going to be there, and then you can be a speaker. Maybe negotiate your fee that would be accommodate the fact that they buy all the books. So if you don't like to speak, have somebody else sell your book for you. Go to the National Speakers Association website. Find out speakers that speak on your topic and ask them if they would sell your book, give them a percentage of the sale. So you don't have to be a professional speaker to make money at selling your books at speaking events. And you get paid for doing that. And you get, the company, the association is going to pay you to come and speak to their conference, and then you sell books too. It's a great way to make money. Use business cards. A lot of people don't like to use business cards, but it's really important. It's not, business card is to have people remember you. That, and trade shows particularly, I'll talk with people, always make notes on the cards or write down what did we talk about. So when I do the follow-up, I'll remember if I promised to send somebody a copy of a book or send them more information. I always wrote that down on the card. So when I'm doing my follow-up, I would always remember that what I was supposed to do and when I was supposed to do that. So the business card can be a very inexpensive. Vista.com, VISTA.com will print business cards very economically. You may get the first 100 or so free, and then just have them with you and always give them out. I give them out all the time. I'll put them in when I send out a book, I'll have a business card on it, or just meeting people at a networking event. You don't want to lead with your business card, but you want to make sure that people have a way to get back to you too. That's an important thing. You can contact them and they can contact you. Telephoning can be an excellent way to get inexpensively reach a lot of people, and it could be using your cell phone properly to make appointments and to do follow-up. And after a trade show, you make that personal call for doing prospecting, trying to find people to sell to, doing your networking and doing research. The telephone can be a very economical way to do all these different marketing functions free. Actually, not obviously, but most people have unlimited calling. If you don't, you might want to look into that, because it can be a very economical way to reach a lot of people and get a lot of these marketing actions done for free. It only costs us your time, but if you can reach these people, it's a very economical use of your time. Sales promotion, these are generally not free. You have to pay for these, but as an apps member, we have discounts on all these. But you can do a contest or a sweepstakes for apps. The Association of Publishers for Special Sales, we have every month we choose a member, and that person gets a free consultation with me and also gets a copy of my book. There's no skill required for a contest that's different, where somebody has to actually send in some information and actually contribute to it. But you can do bookmarks, coffee mugs, all these different things, just to give you ideas about different ways. So you get that repetition. If you go to a trade show and you have some pens and pads there, or your bookmarks, or doing a store event, you can put the stack of bookmarks up by the cash register. So these are different ways in which you can get that repetition somewhat inexpensively. The bookmarks are not that expensive. Pens you get these in quantity, maybe 15, 20 cents each. Direct mail can be a great way to reach a lot of people, particularly if you use email. I found that use the term direct marketing, which could include a telephone, but it's something that if you use email or snail mail, I found postcards to be a very effective way to reach people. That your message is right there. They don't have to open up the envelope, and it's not like email where they can just delete it. And it's going to be an effective way to reach people. But have a different offer free information or free samples, or these are different ideas that you can use to generate more attention. Use that attention, interest, desire, and action, and run the numbers too. What's it going to cost you to do this? Is it something that if you put all your costs up here, so you have how much it costs you per image, per impact, per hit. And if you you play with it, so you put in the cost of your book, the shipping charges, the cost of goods sold, the shipping, handling. So it shows you need to you break even. If you send 10,000 of these out there, you have to sell 270 books, or about 3% to break even. That's maybe a little bit high. So you want to play around with this and maybe just send out 5,000 just as a test or something like that. drops your break-even point down. Higher percent, but you have to come up with 150. So it's something that, or you play with the price of it, drop the price on it. But the more that you can come up with the break-even point, and can you do that with a targeted letter? In most cases, I wouldn't say you can always reach it, but if you have a smart, strategic, methodical, have that smart approach to it, then you can use direct mail very effectively, particularly if you're testing. That's a very important thing, to test your all these different offers. Selling books on library tours, that you can have, the libraries may give you an honorarium, maybe $50 or $100, but you do a short presentation on your topic. I have one client wrote a murder mystery. He did a presentation at libraries about how to write murder mysteries, and then sold copies at no non-returnable, a list price at the end of the presentation. Now, libraries do a lot of promotion for you. So the more that you can go to publiclibraries.com, and there's a list of libraries sortable by state. So if you're doing a library tour, if you're in California, just do there's a lot of libraries there. But you can sort it by city too, so you can get those that are near you. But think about doing a library tour based on a presentation on your topic. And look at your promotional expenditure a little bit differently, in the sense that some people will say that I have $10,000 for production, for my budget, and if I do 5,000, spends 5,000 on promotion, I've only got 5,000 left. Well, it's not the way you should look at it. Look at that you're doing your promotion to increase your revenue. So your idea that your revenue is going to be greater than your expenditure, so you're actually making money here, that you have the investment of $5,000 certainly, but you make $6,000, so your balance is $11,000, not $5,000. So that's I think a more effective way of looking at your promotion. Don't just think of it as an expense that goes out like that big hole in the water, or the big black hole. Look at it as a way to invest in increased sales. So I think that's going to help you a lot. And promoting online, we'll look at that. Certainly that increase your sales, gives you greater reach and frequency. You have people coming to you, and once you get the website up, then it's relatively cost effective. It's not a lot, your monthly fees for it, but the more that you can do the social media, social networking, it's ways to market online that are not expensive, that are free actually, obviously. And you may attract media, because media producers are going to go online to look for their different for people to be on their shows, right? Looking for experts. So have a digital marketing strategy. Do all these things. Have an e-zine. Do podcasts. You don't have to create the podcast, but be a guest on other podcasts or other blogs. And so the more that you can do these things, then the more exposure you're getting, the more people you're contacting, the more word of mouth communication that you are in fact extending. But have this social networking strategy too, maybe using Facebook just to keep in touch personally, but using the YouTube and Pinterest and Twitter to become known for your ideas and your content. If you want to collaborate with people at work, use Yammer. Or if you want to be more reaching a professional audience, then you use LinkedIn. If you're doing a lot of work marketing to corporations, then you use LinkedIn for your prospecting. If you're networking, I do that every day on something on LinkedIn, and Facebook and Twitter too. But see, instead of contacting a lot of people, try to find these what I call centers of influence. The green and the red and the blue. These are people who have a large following. So you get them to communicate about how great your book is. This is part of that word of mouth strategy, that you create these centers of influence, people who will promote your book to their audiences. These could be your family and friends, or your printer. Maybe your printer has a blog, and the more that that printer can help you sell, the more books they'll print. So that's their motivation for doing this. But if you get into different groups, and the more that you can get people to tell about your book, then you create that word of mouth, but it also gives you that third-party credibility. So find these people through networking, attending their seminars, exhibiting there. Invite them to lunch. And I did a lot of that when I first started out. I remember I called Dan Pointer in 20 years ago and invited him. We met for lunch. I was out in California, and we, over the years, created quite a friendship before he passed away. But it was something that it all started out with just having lunch together. So use these people to, not use them, but contact these people to promote your books and project information about your books. So recreating your online presence. If you haven't already created your website, maybe you should do one, or maybe just use Facebook instead. But think of creating a trailer, updating it, using it to be current. I put a tip of the day on the app's website every day. I change that. I do on the app's Facebook page. I do a posting every day on that. So I give people information, try to get them to keep coming back. That creates more hits, more exposure, more repetition, and hopefully gets them to be loyal apps members too, because they're getting some more benefit from that information. This is something I think could help you, creating separate landing pages. So if you have information for librarians, have a separate page for them to go to, or for the media. The more that you can give people reasons for buying based upon their needs, and you can do that when you have a separate landing page for them on your website. It's not a totally new website. It's a separate page on your website that has content information that's appropriate to the particular target segment, target market. Blogs certainly are very good. That you don't have to have your own blog. You can blog on others. I do regular blogs on 4 or 5 different sites, and I send them, obviously set that up initially, but I have that, all these different outlets for my content. It's not necessarily all new content either, right? Because I can repurpose the content for these different blogs. So I contribute to others' blogs and add my personality to it. I'll generally talk about non-bookstore marketing. And I plan months in advance to find out if they have a particular topic X months out, then I will write a blog or write content based on that content or that topic and get that to them. You do an audio version of your book. This Podio, you may have heard of Podio books, but now it's Scribble, where they have these audio books. They can do that for audio books, for podcasting, and audio ebooks, but they go to this scribble.com, very inexpensively get your book out, and they can do the production for you. They can publish the book for you, the audio book. So audiobooks can be a great way to reach. It's a different product extension for you. So join a success team. We call them mastermind groups in apps. What that is a way to use other people's minds. You get a group of 4 or 5 people and you meet monthly. And these are people that get to know each other. It's like a board of directors, an outside board of directors for you. That people are giving their opinion. You come there with an idea. Here's something I was thinking about, I want to do, and then you get that perspective from different people. It can be a very great way to save a lot of money. But it's something that you can create that, and it's just a great way to critique and get a different perspective on your plans. And you also offer your opinions on helping those people too. Instead of just thinking of selling your book, use your book to create or to extend or promote your business or your career. If you're a consultant, then use your book. We mentioned that before about just giving it away. That you're able to build your clients. So if someone hires you, you make a lot more money than if you're selling your book. So think of that as a way to build your career for you. Now look at your product. This is something that we're not going to spend as much time on this and as we did on the promotion of it. But just think about how you can come up with different line extensions of coming up with new sizes, new. Might even create like a large print version of your book if you're reaching an older audience. Audiobooks, ebooks, these are all different ways of coming up with different content. Like this not necessarily different content but of presenting your content in a different way, a different form. So the more that you can do that, the more likely you are to reach people. If they are an older group with that large print version, or if they're a gift book, maybe a little bit smaller version. Bundling of getting the several different products together, so the cost of the different products is less than if they bought the different products separately. For example, if you have a children's book, maybe you get the plush toy with it, and it's something that is an added in value to the pricing. It's an added benefit to the whole system, to making it work for you. The author brand extensions, these are existing, your existing name, and then but launching into a new category, for example, writing articles or consulting or doing these personal presentations, or it's getting your name out to a different target, and perhaps in a different, well, it would be in a different way if you use these different techniques for making that happen. Distribution, just looking at the retail and non-retail. Don't just think of just bookstores. Think about the other types of retailers, like airport stores and discount stores and warehouse clubs and pharmacies and specialty stores, and gift shops and museums and hotels, depending on your target market, hospital gift shops. Or in the non-retail side, think about you're selling books to corporations. Generally, on the right side, the non-retail is going to be in larger quantities and non-returnable. Retail, think returnable in most cases, that they will, if the books aren't sold, they send them back to you. But on the non-retail side, that the books are generally sold large quantities and non-returnable. But just think about, these are some of those other faces in the trees that you might think about. And here's an example of how it works for fiction and for nonfiction, that you can sell fiction to cruise ships and airports and reading groups. And these are all different places in which you can sell fiction. Or nonfiction, that once you create this list of potential buyers, then you contact them for their reasons for buying. The book clubs will buy for a different reason than will a gift shop on a cruise ship. But the more that you can create these segments, these targets for your content, the more, and this is free. You don't have to spend anything to do that. So you want to price your book that's right at the pinnacle price of where point A is. That sometimes the higher your price goes, the more so you can sell it up to a point, and then you get a point where the competitive prices are higher or lower than yours, or that people to say that it's not value. I don't get the value. That $29.95 book is not as valuable as this one for $19.95 for my reasons for buying. So you want to do that. You can set a price, but you can manipulate the cost by these different ways of offering a cash discount, a quantity discounts, offering a guarantee. This concept of crowd pricing I thought was pretty interesting. It's on this Scribble page where they set the book's price based on the popularity. It's like the tolls, a lot in the Northeast anyway. In Washington D.C., they have tolls based on the amount of money you pay in the toll is based on the volume of the traffic and the time of day, and certainly. So that's this kind of a way of adapting that concept to book pricing. But the quantity discounts are big in the corporate, that they pay less per book if they buy 10,000, and they pay more per book if they buy 100. So that's the quantity discount. So these are different ways in which you can manipulate the price without changing the price. You're adjusting the price for different seasons, for different promotions, and different offering that guarantee. Which again, these things don't cost anything, but there are ways of having you sell more books without actually changing the price on it. There's an interesting way of looking at the pricing too, and thinking about the form, the product form, that you have $14.95. You're selling it through a wholesaler. You have to sell 150 books to make $1,000. Or personal presentations, you're only selling 67 books to make $1,000. Or you could create a DVD, what I did, and sold that only 20 books, 20 of those at $49.95. See, the pricing goes up, the quantity goes down. And the bundles of 2 books and a video, which I sold to the parents of graduating seniors. And I did a package of how to get on TV and radio shows of 2 books and a video. This is back when the videos were popular, and sold that for $100. They only have to sell 10 of those to make $1,000, or 3 seminars. So if you look at pricing a little bit differently, then you can do less effort and make more money. So I hope you've got a lot of information about marketing on a budget, and watch this course over and over again. And I think you'll pick up something every time. So thank you for joining me on this course about how to market on a budget. And I wish you great success in your book marketing.